Hey, what's going on? Ryan here with Intersection Records. Just finished watching the Black Sabbath farewell concert called Back to the Beginning. It was at a football stadium in Birmingham, England, where the band was founded, 56 years ago, back in like 1969, 70. It was awesome. It was an all-star lineup of different bands, heavy metal bands. Each band that played at least one Sabbath song. And really by the end of it, you got to hear all of their hits, all of their great songs, some deep tracks that I didn't know, some amazing performances, some all-star collaborations. My first experience with Sabbath was driving up to Detroit when I was a kid, and my cousin having a 45 of Iron Man. And we would listen to that over and over again, and just the doomy nature to it, how different it was than what I was listening to as a second or third grader, right back there in the late 70s, early 80s. Ultimately Ozzy's solo career took off. I was a big fan of all that stuff. I was lucky enough to see Sabbath with the original lineup in 2004. I saw Sabbath again with Dio, but let's get into this. We're gonna go through what I saw today, a little review of everything. I really loved everything. In a way, it was exhausting. It's now 10 hours later, and I've just finished this. I missed Mastodon. They were the first band. I woke up, purchased the concert, and Rival Sons were on. And their lead singer surprised me that he had a beard, so I kind of didn't know who was out there, but his voice is so recognizable. They played Do Your Worst. They then covered Electric Funeral by Sabbath and did Secrets. The energy right out the box by Rival Sons was incredible. Anthrax was next. They played their huge hit, Indians, and then they played Into the Void. Awesome cover there. Band was firing on all cylinders. You got the sense that all these bands, obviously these bands were asked to come for a reason. They're all disciples and descendants of Black Sabbath, but clearly also they have a relationship with Ozzy and Sharon. A lot of these bands have been on Ozfest in the past and opened up for the band. And it's been a long career, obviously, for all of these bands, but certainly Sabbath guys. Hailstorm was next. Lizzie Hill's the front woman. She really brought it and really kind of blew me away how heavy they are, how heavy she is. She just loves to scream and scream whenever she can, and melodic. Love Bites was her first song they played, then Rain Your Blood on Me. She's getting in the crowd. She's ripping on guitar. And they played Perry Mason and Ozzy Osbourne cover, which was cool to see as she was shredding on her like Firebird type of red axe that she had. Lamb of God was next. Lamb of God, that music, I'm not really big into Lamb of God necessarily. I just don't know a lot about them, and you can only serve so many masters. They impressed the hell out of me. Randy Blythe's vocals, his energy. Laid to Rest, they played Redneck, and then they did Children of the Grave, the Sabbath cover, classic Children of the Grave. Again, these bands are getting the crowd into it. I can't imagine how exhausted that crowd was, and I can't imagine if you were up against the rail on the stage how you ever went to the bathroom. So there was also so Tom Morello was kind of the musical coordinator for this whole event, and he put together these kind of super groups. The first one came out, and Lizzie Hale came back on stage and sang Ultimate Sin with Jakey Lee. Mike Borden, was longtime drummer for Ozzy. Dave Ellison on bass. Adam Wakeman on keyboards. Adam's father, Rick Wakeman, played keyboards in the 70s live for Sabbath. And then, of course, now Adam did that in his career. Nuno Betancourt as well. So they did Ultimate Sin. Lizzie left, and then David Draymond from Disturbed came out and sang Shot in the Dark with Jakey Lee, Borden, Elvison, and Wakeman. Draymond also sang Sweet Leaf with Betancourt, Borden, Elvison, and Scott Ian from Anthrax. Nuno Betancourt was an all-star today. He is unbelievable. I haven't seen Extreme in 35 years. I'm seeing Extreme on October 3rd. And you're going with me. Then Whitfield Crane came out. Whitfield Crane was the singer for Ugly Kid Joe. Came out with Frank Bello, the bass player for Anthrax. Token, Sleep Token on drums. He had like a mask on. That they're a kind of a death metal band that wore masks. Nuno Bettencourt and Adam Waken for a song called Believer. And man, Whitfield Crane, dude, that guy has so much energy. He was getting the crowd going. It was completely awesome. And then they did changes. Youngblood, Nuno Bettencourt, Sleep Token, Frank Bello, and Adam Wakeman did changes. You know, in between acts, they had a stage where they could get rid of the drums and any keyboards, and they could rotate it so that they were moving bands in and out like every 10 or 15 minutes. In between, they were showing some clips of stuff from Birmingham. They were showing clips of people just thanking Ozzy. But they did show a recorded video of Jack Black, Revel Ian, who's Scott Ian's son, and Tom Morello's son, Roman, did a killer videotaped version. They weren't there live, but they had videotaped it for the show. Performance, pre-taped, of Mr. Crowley. Jack Black is amazing. And I know he can sing Dio stuff, but his Mr. Crowley was so fun and killer and kind of funny. Alice in Chains then came out, played Man in the Box, Wood, and then a great version of Fairies Wear Boots. Sean Kinney there on drums, along with the rest of the guys, David Duvall. Alice in Chains sounded freaking great. And again, what you're getting on these bands coming out is their biggest hits plus a cover. Gojira played next. I'm not familiar with Gojira. I enjoyed their set quite a bit. Stranded, Silvera, Mea Culpa with Marina Viati on vocals, Mea Culpa. And then they played Under the Sun, a deeper track from Sabbath. Now it's time for Supergroup 2, and this was special. What we got here, we got Tom Morello coming back out with Nuno Bettencourt, Rudy Sarzo, longtime heavy metal bass player for everybody, including Ozzy, Travis Barker on drums, Danny Carey, and Chad Smith. So they had a drum off. Danny Carey, Chad Smith, and Travis Barker had a drum off, supported by Morello, Bettencourt, and Sarzo, and they did Symptom of the Universe. Billy Corrigan comes out then, takes lead vocals with Morello, KK Downing, Adam Jones from Tool, Rudy Sarzo, and Danny Carey for breaking the law. Judas Priest, unfortunately, was unable to be there, but they did record a message, and KK Downing was there to play Breaking the Law, which I thought was pretty cool. And they did Snowblind. Again, we got Billy Corrigan from Smashing Pumpkins singing Snowblind. He leaves. Sammy Hagar comes out with Bettencourt, Wakeman, Sarzo, Chad Smith, and Vernon Reid for Flying High Again. Hagar kind of had some problems, I think, with Flying High Again a little bit on knowing where he was in the song. I felt like if there was a couple moments in the whole thing, maybe that was a moment that wasn't quite great. And then Hagar, Bettencourt, Wakeman, Sarzo, Chad Smith, Tom Morello do the classic Montrose song Rock Candy, and they crushed that. Papa V Perpetua from Ghosts came out with Vernon Reid, Nuno Bettencourt, Wakeman, Rudy Sarzo, Travis Barker for Bark at the Moon. And I'm surprised that Jakey Lee didn't come out, since Jakey Lee wrote that song. Don't tell Ozzy and Sharon that he wrote it, but he wrote that song. Then Steven Tyler comes out. Was not expecting Steven Tyler. Everybody knows about his hearing issues and vocal issues with Ron Wood from the Rolling Stones, Nuno Bettencourt, Tom Morello, Andrew Watt, who's been the producer extraordinaire for the Stones' last album, the last several Ozzy albums. He's doing everybody's albums. Paul McCartney, Andrew Watt, he's played guitar with Ozzy. Sarzo, Travis Barker for Train Kept a Rollin'. So we got Steven Tyler, Ron Wood, Ben Court, Train Kept a Rollin'. And then they launch into Walk This Way by Aerosmith. So we got Tyler, Betancourt, Morello, Andrew Watt, Rudy Sarzo, and Chad Smith for Walk This Way, and then they go straight into A Whole Lot of Love. That was the highlight of the day in a lot of ways for me. Incredible. But you know what? Pantera came out next, and Pantera absolutely crushed. You know, you don't get second chances a lot in life. And by the way, this was a second chance for Sabbath to finish up properly with Bill Ward, and they did. But Pantera has been able to get back together the last 2 or 3 years, and it's been very successful. I saw them last year. They played Cowboys from Hell. They played Walk. They did Planet Caravan with Charlie Benanti, their new drummer, playing drumsticks on bongos, just like they would have in the studio. Of course, Zakk Wylde on guitar. And then they played Electric Funeral. I was wondering if they were going to play another one, because it's hard to close your set with Planet Caravan since it's a little mellow. But then they crushed Electric Funeral, and Phil Anselmo is just so cool with a mic, no shoes, killing it. Tool then came out. You know, I'm not a big Tool fan. I've seen Tool before. I don't quite get it. I know people that love them. I know Danny Carey is one of my favorite drummers. They played 46 and 2. They played Hand of Doom, a cover of Sabbath, and then Enema. I just can't get into them, and I don't know why, but people love them, and they seem like they put a good show on. Slayer was next. My God, Slayer was heavy. I mean, just, you know, we already had Anthrax, we already had Lamb of God, we already had Gojira. Slayer just slayed. Disciple, War Ensemble, Wicked World, Black Sabbath covered, South of Heaven, Rain and Blood, and Angel of Death. They were in fine form. You know, they broke up a few years ago, and now they're starting to do shows again, but just one-offs kind of. Talented, it's crazy. Guns N' Roses was next. You know, Axl's voice has aged over the years, and Axl has a hard time with some of those tones, but man, Axl's 62 or 63 years old. He looks the best I've seen him in years. He's thin. He looks toned and fit. They have a new drummer. I can't think of his name, but longtime drummer stepped down. Richard Fortas is still there with Duff McKagan and Slash, their new drummer. There was no Dizzy Reed that I could see, and there was no that girl on keyboards that I could see. It looks like a 5-piece, and they were absolutely killer. They played It's All Right, which is a Black Sabbath song where Axl was on piano, quickly got up, then Never Say Die, then a deeper cut off that same album, 1979's Never Say Die, Junior's Eyes, which was one of the best songs of the entire thing for me. Junior's Eyes off of Never Say Die of Sabbath album, awesome. Then they played Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. You know, I mean, what was cool during the Sabbath songs is Slash was playing in SG. He doesn't normally play in SG. I think that the guitar player for Alice in Chains, I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. I've seen Cantrell was playing in SG too when he was doing his Sabbath stuff, and other people did too that we'll talk about. So Slash has got the SG on, a black SG, just ripping Sabbath Bloody Sunday. Then they did Welcome to the Jungle. That now he's got his Les Paul on. Then they played Paradise City with the Les Paul. GNR sounded really good. Speaking of SGs, Gibson SGs, Metallica was next, and they opened up with Hole in the Sky, and Kurt Hammett had a gray kind of silver tone, silver burst SG, which was cool to see him play. Then they played Creeping Death. Then they played For Whom the Bell Tolls. He's got Greenie out there. It would have been cool if there was some sort of Thin Lizzy tribute within all of this, since they're have to be pretty influenced by Sabbath. They played then Johnny Blade, a kind of a deep track from Sabbath. Then they played Battery, and then they played Master of Puppets. So you're getting just the best of these bands, and you're getting killer performances. They were great. Man, GNR may have been better. I don't know. GNR was really good today. So were the Rival Sons. I mean, shoot. I have to go see those guys. Ozzy Osbourne was next. And he had Tommy Cluftus on drums. He had Zakk Wylde on guitar. He had Adam Wakeman and Mike Inez on bass. So kind of his last solo group together. Zakk Wylde's been there forever. Tommy played drums with Sabbath when they did those shows in the teens. They open up with I Don't Know. Ozzy's in a chair. So Ozzy's in like a throne. It seems like it can move around a little bit. He's got a teleprompter in front of him. Teleprompters were used a lot today by all bands. He's got his water there. He's got some spray. Ozzy sounded good. And he was, get those freaking hands in the air. Let me hear you. He was so appreciative all night. He played Mr. Crawley next. And, there were people crying watching this. Didn't seem like there was a lot of women there, but the women that were there were good looking, and they were getting emotional all night. Suicide Solution was next. And then we got Mama, I'm Coming Home. That really brought the tears out. And then we got Crazy Train. Ozzy was really good. He's sitting down. He probably can't forcefully sing quite as well. Zakk Wylde was helping him with some vocals. I thought they were great. To be honest, this 10-hour event, it took a lot out of me just to watch a 10-hour concert. I mean, there was breaks, but and then of course we get Black Sabbath, who finishes the night off, and they did a couple of cool things in between. They showed footage of some photo sessions where everybody earlier in the day or maybe yesterday took photos with Ozzy, and just seeing all those legends in one place, taking pictures with Ozzy and Steven Tyler and James Hetfield and all these people celebrating Ozzy. I mean, Ozzy is Ozzy's sick with Parkinson's disease, and it's a devastating disease, and he's not going to be able to tour. And this is going to be it. So Sabbath comes out. They do a little video montage. It's finally dark out at the stadium, and they open up with War Pigs. Bill Ward's got no shirt on back there. He's a 77-year-old man. Geezer Butler is the baby. He's 75. Tony Iommi's 77. And Ozzy's 77. Is Ozzy 77? Or is Ozzy 76? Anyway, he was born in 48. It was good. I mean, could it all been a little faster? Did the Sabbath set feel slower? A little bit slower? Maybe. They played NIB next, which has some incredible bass work. Geezer Butler and Tony Iommi seemed like they could still go on for a while if they wanted to. I mean, Geezer's fingers were just flashing and brilliant. He's now gone gray. It looks great on him. Iommi's still got dark hair. He looks great. Does not move around like almost an 80-year-old man. And Bill Ward looked pretty good. Bald, no shirt on. Playing the drums, not crushing it necessarily. But it was good enough. Iron Man was next, and then Paranoid. So you got the big songs you want. There was definitely some jamming during some of these songs, because all these songs have jammy moments. I'll tell you what, when they were fully in flight at times, it was classic Black Sabbath. Again, seeing some of these younger bands play some of the Sabbath songs earlier in the day made you realize what guys in their 30s and 40s can do to a Sabbath song. So maybe that juxtaposition there, seeing those young bands do Sabbath and then seeing Sabbath in the late 70s do it. I'll tell you, it was great. I'm glad I watched all this music. And God bless you, Ozzy. Check out my channel. We only talk about great music here at Intersection Records every day. Peace out. See you.